crime. I have lived a life that nobody should live. People don't understand why I don't take a salary as a minister. Because I don't take a salary because I owe this country so much that for me, it's an absolute pleasure just to serve this country. And people have forgiven me. People have forgiven me because Nelson Mandela taught us forgiveness. I am the product of the kindness of strangers. I am what I am because there was a man that lived called Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Nelson Mandela is our North Star. Nelson Mandela is the best thing that ever happened to us. And my call today is for each and everybody here to find the Mandela in you. Because so many of us has moved away from the Mandela in us. South Africa has walked away. We have failed Nelson Mandela. Freedom Park has failed Nelson Mandela. My department has failed Nelson Mandela. Government has failed Nelson Mandela. Citizens has failed Nelson Mandela. Business has failed Nelson Mandela. White people has failed Nelson Mandela. Black people has failed Nelson Mandela. And I tell you why I'm saying so. Because there are young people today, and maybe you don't want the visitors to know, but they have to know. There are young people today that call Nelson Mandela a sellout. I know it, and you know it. The reason why they call him a sellout is because when the hunter tells the story of the hunted, he will tell not the story of the hunted, he will tell the story of the hunter. We have not done sufficiently as South Africans to talk about this icon. The word sellout and the word Nelson Mandela does not belong in one sentence. We have failed Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela will be ashamed if he has a view of South Africa today. White people still have everything. White businesses have not shared sufficiently. Black people has adopted the mannerisms of the erstwhile oppressor. Because I come from the colored community, which were there during the times of Krotua. But today, legislatively, there's a difference between colored and black. Colored people today are not seen as Africans. While the first person Nelson Mandela hired was Professor Jakes Gerwel by his side. Then some fools come and they decide colored people cannot be black. While colored people, let me tell you something today. When Solomon Mahlangu was hanged, Frank Rivers was hanged. When Steve Biko was killed by the police, Ashley Kriel was killed by the police. When Nelson Mandela was on Robben Island, Harry the Strandloper was the first president on Robben Island. When Walter Sisulu was on Robben Island, South Africa had many other prisoners on Robben Island. I came here today to tell you, we are one people. The way Nelson Mandela never saw Ahmed Kathrada as lesser than him. But legislatively, Indian people are not being treated the same as black people in this country. Colored people are not the same. We need to look in the mirror and fix that. We should not avoid the national question. We are one people. We fought one struggle. We went to one prisoner. We are the children of Mandela. And you cannot bring Mandela's name in disrepute. In my community, you do get racist people. In your community, you do get racist people. We should not be known by the worst of us. We should be known by the best of us. This man, I went to Guernsey, and the gentleman that drove the taxi didn't know where South Africa was. And when I said, Mandela, his face lit up. He said, Mandela country! And he didn't want me to pay. I had to tell him Mandela left me a big inheritance, which was partially true. So, at this august moment, where are we as South Africans? You should never have asked me to come and speak here. If you wanted me to come and give you poetry and nice things about Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela made one mistake. He said he was not a saint. I tell you, Nelson Mandela was a saint. Nelson Mandela has given us something that must live in us for the rest of our lives. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela sacrificed everything for us not to be divided, but to be united. I was criticized in my maiden speech. I was asked by the EFF, why can you agree, what is your stance when it comes to the stem in the national anthem as the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture? I stood proudly because I had to dig deep into the Mandela in me before I could answer them. And we each have a Mandela in us. And I said to them, I'm very proud of this stem because it's a testament of where we were and where we are today. I want to say to South Africans here, President Ramaphosa has given, you know how it is, very informally. The leaders in the GNU, we would talk, what do you want? What do you want? Which ministry you want? And I said, I want Home Affairs for particular reasons which I will just elaborate on shortly. And I said, I want police as number 2. And I asked my friends, what can I say as number 3? And I never knew my friends are so selfish and such cheapskates, because they then, Mambaleka, they then said, I must get sport, because they want free tickets. It wasn't for any good reason. It was for very selfish reasons. Because I love my selfish friends. I then said, sport, arts and culture. When the president called at 6:30 p.m. and he said, Mr. Gayton McKenzie, it would be my pleasure if you serve in my cabinet, and I want you to serve in the portfolio of sport, arts and culture. I was being polite. I was like, yeah, thank you. I wasn't particularly happy. But I want to make a confession here today. If the president calls me tomorrow and he says to me, you can have police or Home Affairs, I will refuse, because I'm at the best place in South Africa. I love this portfolio. I'm going to change the way things has happened in the past, because this portfolio is a portfolio called social cohesion. We must come together as white, black in South Africa. We are one nation. We are the children of Nelson Mandela. We should not let people divide us. The first thing I'm going to do, every school in this country, I'm going to meet with the Minister of Education, should teach children about Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. Every institution must be taught. I'm going to speak to the Minister of Prisons that there must be lessons in jail about Nelson Mandela. Then we will have fewer people coming out of jail with the intention of still continuing with a life of crime. Because here we have a man that has been given to this country to change the unchangeable. And you must never forget that we are the children of Nelson Mandela. And as a Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, I want to say to you, many people see this department as a lesser department. They are about to see. I'm already, truth must be told, I'm already the best minister. I'm not saying that. News 24, my biggest hater, said that this morning. So who am I to argue with my haters if they think I'm great? But I want to end this by telling you about the GNU. You know, great men take the road less traveled. It was very easy for Nelson Mandela to be populist. But he didn't. He took a decision. We all look forward to the name of the Springbok. Mandela was a saint. We all look forward to the Springbok name change. Majority of us sport people. Nelson Mandela fought and he said, we shall retain the name of the Springbok. Today, the Springboks are the ones keeping this country together. And that we have to admit. Mandela saw that 30 years ago. What us mere mortals are only seeing now. Somebody says, how dare you have such a xenophobe speak at such a function like today? I was jumping in the plane and a lady was sitting next to me, only the two of us. She's a Zimbabwean. And she was shivering. And I asked her, are you cold? And she was scared to speak. And she said, I'm scared of you. I said, why? She said, because you hate foreigners. I engaged her for 2 hours from Cape Town. And I said to her that the great Nelson Mandela, the Ethiopians had to give him a passport because he loves law and order. He didn't go to other countries on the back of a crocodile. He had to get a passport from the Ethiopians because he understands countries have rules. I explained to the lady that I am not xenophobic. But every country has laws that need to be followed. Because when you kill somebody here, we want to be able to find you. But if you are undocumented, we will not be able to find you. And there are some amongst us that is using foreigners, illegal foreigners, to reverse the gains of the freedom fighters. Because then they don't need to pay them a living wage. Then they don't need to register them for UIH. They still want back the kafir mentality that they can lord over people with a darker color than them. Hence, they act like they care for those foreigners. And they don't. They are using them because they want to lord over them the way they lorded over us before we were released from the bondage of apartheid. You have scientists from Zimbabwe being gardeners in this country. How can that be right? You have teachers being waiters from Zimbabwe. How can that be right? They are being exploited. I will never be a spectator to the exploitation of another black man or white man or colored man for as long as I'm alive. Everybody coming to this country, come through the right channels and you shall be feeling our great hospitality in this country. I want to tell you about the GNU because I think my time is over. It's the most President Ramaphosa has given me. President Ramaphosa, advocate. Can I tell the latest story, advocate? I'm a man of protocol. I have to listen to the advocate. He's also my senior in age. The President Ramaphosa was invited by President Macron a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And President Ramaphosa said, no, he would not be able to make it, but I will represent him. And when I was in Paris, I was invited, I was telling the former deputy president, I was invited to all these big events that the other ministers of other countries were not invited to. The first three I felt very important. I thought it's maybe my intellect, but I soon realized it's nothing to do with my intellect. It has all to do with the GNU. They are curious about the GNU, the presidents of other countries, and that's why they invited me. But I still enjoy the food and the nice seats that the president sat on. And I'm here today to tell you, I heard Mr. Malema said it's not going to last. I hear people say the GNU is not going to last. I came here today to tell you the GNU, and you must take it from the bad boy of the GNU. If there's going to be a problem, I will be in the center of whatever problem might arise there. The GNU is going to last for the next 5 years. And we run the risk of South Africans loving this GNU so much that they give us another 5 years of GNU. Why am I saying the GNU is going to last? Because everybody goes around and say that the ANC needs this. They're not lying. The ANC needs this. But the DA needs it more.